Should the West Virginia Mountaineers take a different approach than what I and many other fans think this offseason in the transfer portal? We're going to talk about that in this episode. Should they focus on building a strong defense in the portal more so than offense? That's going to be the topic of discussion the first half of today's show. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about some comments Pat McAfee made on College GameDay this morning regarding the financial situation at WVU, specifically for WVU football. So we're going to talk about those things in this episode. So stick around and we'll do it right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis around the West Virginia Mountaineers and occasionally the Big 12. If you like an objective take, but from a fan's point of view, I'm your guy. Now, let's dig into the show. On a recent show I made a comment about the fact that West Virginia likely let Josiah Trotter walk and others walk because they didn't want to pay him the kind of money that, in Josiah Trotter's case, Missouri was paying him, which was rumored to be. And I heard this over at the Old Grad podcast, by the way. Go check out that podcast. Very fun to listen to. Some former WVU players are on that podcast, including Reed Williams, who most of you remember, and his brother Whitey Williams, who's very entertaining. But Whitey made a comment that he heard a rumor that Josiah Trotter was paid $750,000 to go to Missouri. And I made the comment that, West Virginia, probably made the right decision by not paying that money to him because you don't want to spend that much money on a middle linebacker. Now, I had a caller, Chris from Charleston, who disagrees with my take, which is fine. I actually like a little bit of disagreement as long as it's respectful, and Chris was respectful. But I'm going to play Chris's voicemail that he sent me. And by the way, if you want to send me a voicemail, you can do so by calling the number that I'm getting ready to put on the bottom of your screen and read out to you. Call 304-712-9347. Leave me a voicemail, a question, or a comment, and I will address it, hopefully on a show. I will try to address the best ones. And also, please leave me your name and where you're calling from, but it's 304-712-9347. All right. Let's go ahead and play this message that I received from Chris from Charleston.
Hey, Couz, this is Chris. I'm from Charleston, West Virginia. I was watching your latest video where you were talking about Josiah Trotter getting $750,000 to play middle linebacker at Missouri. Couz, middle linebackers are often referred to as the quarterback of the defense. When you want to talk about can WVU afford to pay for high-quality players, you're going to get better quality players at less dollar value when you're talking about defensive players. Could you really get a quarterback that's worth putting on the field for $750,000 these days in the current college football climate? We need to start focusing on defense here in the Hills to make sure that Mountaineer tackles rattle opposing players' face masks, create turnovers, and set our offense up to do better things on their side of the ball with better field position. You can get so much more value out of defensive players and defensive coaches even these days than you can from these so-called offensive studs and these offensive gurus. Half the time they're a flash in the pan, but it seems like the people that focus on defense tend to do better. The Big 12 is a shootout league, and if we had the only shutdown defense in the Big 12, it would not only create a team identity, but I think it would lead to greater success. Hey, man, I hope you're having a top shelf day. And Q Country Roads.
Thanks to Chris for the call, and thank you, Chris, for the thought behind your call and comments. And you made some great points there, man. My personal opinion is yes, you definitely need to try to build a great defense. And I think Rich Rod knows that. I think that's why he brought Zach Alley in, and that's why they're paying him the money they're paying him, about $1.5 million a year, if not more. But I still think you have to build your team first in the trenches, the O-line, and even you can even throw the D-line in that conversation, which goes to your point, I guess. As far as the quarterback position goes, I still think if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to win a lot of games in the Big 12, right? I'm not saying your quarterback has to be elite. I mean, we saw Baylor, no offense to their quarterbacks back in 2021. They didn't have elite quarterback play. They were still able to win the conference. Disregard the WVU towel that just fell in my background. That is very distracting, isn't it? It's like a squirrel. Anyway, back to the point. For those of you who might be listening, I just had my WVU towel that I have hanging up in my background. Just one corner of it just fell. Anyway, you don't necessarily have to have an elite quarterback. And no, you don't necessarily have to go out and get one for $1 million or more. But if there's one out there for the taking, I still feel like you got to take them. But if you don't have a good offensive line to block for them, it's not going to matter. But to your point about the Big 12 being a shootout league, I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore. Yes, you have a few high-powered offenses like TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech, but you also have teams now who are winning with defense like BYU, which I guess maybe sort of goes to your point. But when you look at Texas Tech, for example, they're winning. They have a really good offense and a really good defense. Now, you look at Utah. They had a great defense in 2024, the first year in the Big 12, but their offense was so bad they only won. I don't think they won what did they win any Big 12 games? Maybe 1 or 2 is all. Finished 5-7 on the year to overall because their offense struggled so bad. You still have to, and look at West Virginia this year. You talked about giving your team good field position. How many times this year have we seen West Virginia's defense get interceptions or turnovers on the opposing team side of the field, and West Virginia's offense not even be able to move the ball and score with it? You still have to be balanced. If you can't score the football, you're not going to win in the Big 12, which kind of goes to your point. Those high-powered offenses that are in the league will outscore you even if you have a good defense because you're not going to stop them every single time. Let's go ahead and take a look. And I've got some numbers, I think, to back up my claim a little bit. Now, some of these also support Chris's point. You know, he makes a fair point. But let's go ahead and look at the last 5 conference champions and where they were ranked in multiple defensive categories and offensive categories. Let's start off with the 2020 Oklahoma Sooners. And this is back when there were only 10 teams in the league, right? To Chris's point, let's look at defense first. They were 3rd in total defense, 1st in sacks and 1st in interceptions, 2nd in third down defense, 3rd in red zone defense, right? So they were elite defensively. But let's look at their offensive numbers. They were 1st in total offense, 1st in red zone offense, and 4th in third down offense. So they were also really good and top half of the league in offense. So they were balanced. They were good offensively and defensively. All right, let's look at the 2021 Baylor Bears. 2nd in total defense, 2nd in sacks, and 1st in interceptions, 2nd in third down defense, 3rd in red zone defense. So again, they were top, half at least, or if not 3rd in most defensive categories. Let's look at their offensive categories. 3rd in total offense, 7th in third down offense, so not as good there, but they were 3rd in red zone offense. So they were still top half of the league in most offensive categories. Even though they didn't have elite quarterback play, it was good enough, and they supplemented with a good running game. They made it work. But again, they were elite defensively, to Chris's point. 2022 K-State Wildcats. This is still when they only had 10 teams in the league. They were 4th in total defense, 3rd in sacks and interceptions, 3rd in third down defense, 3rd in red zone defense. So very good defensively. Let's look at their offensive numbers. They were 6th in total offense, so just basically middle of the pack. They were 7th in third down offense, so not very good. And 5th in red zone offense. So Kansas State won the Big 12 with defense pretty much. But they were at least average, good to average in offense too. You can't be terrible on offense and great on defense and still win the conference. You have to be at least average in one of the categories and elite in the other one, or very good in both, basically, is what this boils down to. Let's look at the 2023 Texas Longhorns. This is the year they had 14 teams. The year before Texas and Oklahoma left, but after they had added BYU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati. All right. Texas, they were elite defensively as well. 1st in total D, second in sacks, third in interceptions, first in third down D, and first in red zone D. So they were elite defensively, but they were pretty darn good offensively too. They were third in total offense, only 10th in third down offense, but they were fourth in red zone offense. So Texas won by being elite defensively and pretty darn good offensively. And then the 2024 Arizona State Wildcats. This one, a little bit more of an anomaly than the others, but there were also 16 teams in the conference at this point. They had added the four corner schools, and it was they won. They got into the title game basically by tiebreakers, right? So there were probably four teams with similar statistics here, but they were fifth in total defense, sixth in sacks, second in interceptions, only 11th in third down defense, so they struggled there. They were 10th in red zone defense, so they weren't all that great defensively. But they were good offensively. Let's listen to their offensive numbers. They were fourth in total offense, third in third down offense, and fourth in red zone offense. Why? Because they had Cam Scattaboo, who could move the sticks for them in short yardage situations. And in red zone situations, he'd get it in the end zone for them. I think that was the difference in that Arizona State. They were okay defensively and above average in most categories, but below in others. But they were really good offensively too. They were balanced. That's the key to me, is balance. And in doing all this research, I found a very interesting category that most teams who win the Big 12 are at the top of the league in. Time of possession, believe it or not. Arizona State was first in the league in time of possession last year. Texas was fifth in 2023. K-State was second in 2022. Baylor was first in 2021, and Oklahoma was second in 2020. So if you can keep the ball away from your opponent, you have a better chance to win. That is not what Rich Rod's offenses like to do. They like to go fast and score fast, but you got to score. If you're scoring, it probably works. But if you're not scoring, it puts your defense in a bad spot, and you're going to struggle, in my opinion. Now, but that's why I think you have to be balanced. The way Rich Rod likes to coach offense, if you don't have a good offense, your defense is likely going to struggle because of the complementary football piece. You cannot be bad and not move the football on offense and expect your defense to hold up game in and game out. It just doesn't make sense. I don't care how good your defense is. If they're on the field 35, 40 minutes a game, they're probably not going to win a ton. Right? So, anyway, I want to hear what you think in the comments. Do you agree with Chris that West Virginia should try to focus more of their spending on defense? Or do you think they should focus it more on the offensive side of the ball? And maybe I misinterpreted Chris's comments. And maybe he just feels like because West Virginia doesn't have a ton of money, they could get better bang for their buck defensively. But I still think if you don't have an offense to complement that defense, it's not going to matter. You've got to be good on both sides of the football if you have any chance of winning the conference and getting into the college football playoff. That's my take. So, Chris, I do appreciate the call, but I guess I slightly disagree with your take. Now, let's go ahead and go to a quick commercial break, and then I will come back and we will talk about the Pat McAfee situation. Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown scorer to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code COUZ. That's code COUZ to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer. Want to thank you to DraftKings and thank you for being patient and letting me get through the housekeeping. I also want to give a shout out to Appalachia Digital. You see their logo in the corner of my screen. They're the folks who designed our website over at wvsportschat.com. They did a great job. They can design you a website for your small business or your blog or whatever it is you want to do. If you already have a website, they can also help you level it up or get you found easier on Google. Just go to appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know I sent you, and they will hook you up. Now, let's talk about the comments made by Pat McAfee on College GameDay this morning. And I'm paraphrasing this. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he said basically that he got a call on a Wednesday from Coach Rich Rodriguez saying that one of the major donors for West Virginia University basically reneged, for lack of a better term, on the amount they were going to give. Now, he didn't say they totally didn't give anything. He just said they weren't going to give the amount they had originally committed to. And they were relying on that money and had basically made some promises, I guess, to some players. And so Pat and Rich Rod was asking Pat for help. Pat stepped up and I guess filled in that gap where the other donor left out. So first off, kudos to Pat McAfee for doing that. Now, should he have came out publicly with that? I don't know. Not really the issue or the topic of the video today. But what I do want to talk about is how bad is that for West Virginia? I think it's a bad thing when you have donors that, for whatever reason, don't live up to their promises. Maybe there were stipulations behind the money. We don't know the details behind it all. Some sources are saying it was Ken Kendrick, the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. There are others. Mike Ostie put out on Twitter that it was not Ken Kendrick. So at the end of the day, who really knows? I'm not sure that it really matters. The point is, you're going to have this stuff happen. There are going to be donors at every program now, not just West Virginia, but at every program who renege on their promises or who don't live up to their, or maybe they come into some kind of financial situation where they have to reprioritize their money, whatever. And it can put schools in a spot to where they have to go begging other people for the money sometimes at the last minute, potentially. So, but I feel, and again, I think this happens for most, if not all programs around the country, especially at the P4 level. However, when you're a school like West Virginia and your pockets are not as deep as some of these other schools, and you don't have as many of these big mega donors as a lot of these other schools, I think this hurts you more. You cannot afford to have donors backing out of their commitments. You cannot afford to have donors reneging on commitments. You cannot afford to have donors who aren't giving the money because there aren't that many places to go to make it up. Now, if you're a school out here like an Ohio State or one of these schools that have just dozens of mega donors or whatever, and I'm just using Ohio State as an example because they happen to be one of, if not the richest school in the country as far as football. Or Texas, if you're one of the Texas schools, you probably got dozens of donors you can go get money from. West Virginia don't. There's probably, I think you can probably count on one hand or at least maybe two, but probably only using a couple fingers on the other hand of how many mega donors West Virginia has. You've got Ken Kendrick, now Pat McAfee. You have Ike Morris. You have, I guess, Paul Astorg from Astorg Auto, and I think there are a few others, but they're limited. So when you have one that backs out of their commitment, it puts the rest of them in a pickle. And there are going to be times they're not going to be willing or able to step up and fill the gap, especially if it's a last-minute thing. That's why it's going to be up to folks like us. If we can afford it, again, I'm not asking you to donate if you can't afford it. And I donate a little bit. I don't donate a large amount of money, but I donate what makes sense for me and my budget. If every West Virginia fan who can afford it would donate a little bit of a month, $10 a month, I think you can donate as little as that, to the Gold and Blue Enterprises, who is now running all of this behind the scenes. If you can donate just $10 a month to go, or $25 a month, whatever, to Gold and Blue Enterprises, man, it would go a long, long way. If you get, several thousand West Virginia fans donating that amount, I think it would go a long way in helping West Virginia to build a successful, not only football program, but just athletic department as a whole. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and read you the different levels that are available for you to donate. I got this letter in the mail a few weeks ago, and I was planning on doing a show on this, and I thought, you know what? It's a good tie-in with this whole McAfee thing. So I'm going to go ahead and read out the different levels that are offered by Golden Blue Enterprises, or the MAC, who they're now joined at the hip. There's a $100 a year level, which is basically $10 a month, or maybe a little less than that. You can give $250 a year, $500 a year, $1,500 a year, $6,500 a year, $10,000 a year, $25,000 a year, or $50,000 plus a year. Now, I did the math on this, and if you just look at the three lower levels, the $100 a year level, the $250 a year level, and the $500 a year level, based on the current membership of the MAC and Golden Blue Enterprises, they're raising about $1.56 million a year just in those three lower levels alone. Now, that don't sound like a lot, but that's coming from the grassroots level of folks like me and you. They're raising $1.56 million a year. So it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. Now, and obviously, the further up the giving, or as far as the amounts, the less people are giving in that level, which obviously would make sense. But if you can give $100 a year to Golden Blue Enterprises, which is less than $10 a month, $250 is less than $25 a month. If you can do that, it will go a long way in helping West Virginia athletics fill the gap where these mega donors, where we just don't have the number of mega donors needed to make it happen. And I know we can say, well, the team's not winning right now but they need our help to do that. If they can't bring in enough talent, they're not going to win. That's the point. They're not going to win if we don't help them out and step up and support the program financially. And even if it's just buying tickets, even if it's, buying merch, whatever, we need to do what we can at the grassroots level as fans and show how passionate we are, because these mega donors are going to have stipulations a lot of times on what they give, which Pat McAfee said he does not. He wanted to make that clear. Some of them probably do. If you don't win enough, or if you don't hire the coach I want you to hire, or fire the coach I want you to fire, or do whatever, then they will stop giving money. At the grassroots level, we don't have to be that way. We can support the program regardless, help them be competitive, help them compete, and hopefully at some point help them win. Now, obviously there's limitations to everybody, right? Let's step up and do what we can to help support this program and try to fill the gap where the big donors aren't filling, okay? All right, listen, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. I ask that you please support the show if you can. You can support it for free by hitting the thumbs up button. You can hit the hype button below between the download and thanks button on a mobile device. You can subscribe to the channel. Last I looked, I was 37 subscribers from 10,000. I would really appreciate it if you haven't subscribed yet that you will do so, and please make sure your notifications are on and the notification bell is on YouTube, so you'll be notified of future uploads and future live streams I may do. You can also drop comments below. The interactions really help move the needle on YouTube. But regardless, thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for your support. Go enjoy the rest of your day of college football, and let's cross our fingers that the Mountaineers play well tonight against TCU in the Coal Rush game. As I'm recording this on Saturday, I'm wishing you a happy weekend. God bless you, and Q Country Roads.